Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy, Sports and Fitness Rant? I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. Listen, you guys know the deal on this channel, man. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies and stopping the narratives. Remember that, guys. And this is what we're going to do in this video. We're going to set the record straight, and we're going to stop the lies and the narratives on this fool. Once again, Anthony Edwards. My goodness, man. My goodness. And I wasn't going to do a video about it today, but I felt compelled to do a video right now instead of waiting for the morning tomorrow to do this video. And we're going to talk about these stupid comments that he made, once again, about Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan's era. These guys don't shut the hell up. And we're going to talk about Anthony Edwards. Once again, that's why I can't get behind these clowns, man. In the comments that he made, guys, because he exposed himself yet again. Please, Anthony Edwards, do us all a favor. Just shut up, man, and just work on your game, man. Just play basketball, man. Stop talking. You sound stupid. And I want to thank you guys, man. As usual, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel, man. Yo, much respect to all you guys out there, man. The true basketball fans. This is why we're here, guys. Because of this kinds of nonsense. People who think they can just say whatever they want without having any, once again, have any pushback, no blowback from this stuff, man. People think they can just say these kinds of things without any facts, man. Once again, these people are not educated on the history of the game. We're going to talk about it, guys. So thank you to all you guys. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I felt compelled to do a video right in the moment. I seen the comments of Anthony Edwards. Some of you guys were hitting me up in the comment section of some other videos, asking me to do a video on this or asking me my thoughts on this. And this is what we're talking about. This is why you can't get behind these fools. You cannot get behind these guys because they continue to tear down the past eras with nonsensical comments with no backing. There's no factual proof behind any of this stuff that these guys are saying. And I don't want to hear about opinions, none of this stuff. Your opinion must be based off of reality. It must be based off of the facts. That's the only way you can have an educated opinion, is if you're living in reality and you're dealing with the facts. What the video footage has shown us, the facts of the matter. Now, if you guys don't know, Anthony Edwards has some nonsensical comments about Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan's era. And once again, it goes back to his word skill. All of a sudden now, everyone is more skilled in this era. They just keep falling back on this word skill. The word skill, guys, has no meaning. There is no meaning to this word skill in the way that they're using it. There's no meaning to it. It means literally nothing, guys. They're just throwing out the word skill as if that's supposed to be impressive. Yo, man, they're more skilled. No, you guys sound idiotic when you say that because that's not the reality. Those are not the facts. And I'm going to read off his comment down. This is paraphrased, I believe. And I just wrote this down of what I saw on the internet floating around, some comments he made. I think I've seen some people making some videos about this. So here's the comment right here. Like I said, this is a paraphrase, but I wrote this down over what I saw. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill. So that's why when they saw Kobe Bryant, they were like, oh my God. But now everybody has skill. Now, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anybody say. And once again, this proves and continues to prove the point that I've told you guys many times. Just because these guys play in the NBA or some of these other ex-NBA players, just because they played in the NBA does not mean that, once again, that they know the history of the game, that they're being honest with you, that they're being genuine, once again, and that they're standing on anything. And they're not, once again, living in reality. Once again, let's not forget, guys, just because these guys play in the league does not mean that they watch the NBA like that they respect the game like that, or the history of the game. They don't. These guys don't know the history of the game. A lot of these guys, they're athletic freaks, man. They had to play basketball because that's what they were born to do. They're 6'7", they're 6'9", they're 7 feet tall. These guys could jump out the gym. They could do all this crazy stuff, man. So they've lost the respect for the history of the game. They don't respect the history of the game like that. And Anthony Edwards obviously don't know the history of the game. He didn't study the history of the game. He don't know the 80s or the 90s era of NBA that Michael Jordan came up in. He has no clue about this. And it's all right there in his comment. Listen to what he said. He said if they say it was tougher back then than it is now. No, dude, we're not just saying that it was tougher. It factually was tougher. It literally was tougher back in the day. That's not me making excuses or me making up a narrative or a lie about the 80s or the 90s or even previous eras. It literally was physically tougher to play in the NBA back in the 80s and the 90s. Those are just the facts. When you watch the game and you see the way that they were allowed to play basketball and the way these guys used it to their advantages, clothesline and players, cheap shot guys after whistles, doing dirty plays, how many fist fights, how many rivalries do you remember from the 80s and the 90s, guys? A lot of those rivalries had to do with the physicality of the game. When the game is more physical, you have chance for it to be more heated, more contested, more competitive. Right? You're going back and forth. That brings out the rivalries. You're seeing the same team 4, 5, 6 times a season back in the day. You become and you build a rivalry based off the physicality of the game. So when Anthony Edwards says they say it was tougher, no, dude, when we're saying that, those are the facts. It's not, they say it was tougher. No, dude, it actually was tougher back in the day. When we say this NBA is softer now, those are the facts, man. That's not hate. That's not tearing down this previous era. Those are the facts. The way that they've changed the rules and manipulated the rules of the NBA and the way the game is officiated and called, it's softer today. The mentality of the players today is a lot softer than the guys that I grew up watching. The grown men that had heart and grit, determination. They gave the effort. They loved the game. They showed up to work. These guys, you can't say that about them consistently. A lot of these guys are only out there for the money and the fame. They're going through the motions. They lollygag on the court. They load match on the fans. You know what I'm saying? Once again, guys, they don't show up to work every single day. They don't really love the game like that. And they damn sure ain't got the heart, the toughness, the mental fortitude of a lot of the guys from back in the day. They just don't. Look at someone like Ben Simmons, man. Once again, mentally weak individuals. And there's a lot of guys like that in today's league. Look at the way these guys dress. Look at the way they carry themselves around on day-to-day basis. Look at the way they talk down to the fans, these guys. These guys are a bunch of clowns, man. A bunch of clowns. Say it was tougher back than it is now. But he goes, but I don't, so he didn't deny it though when he says this though, but I don't think anyone had skill back then. So once again, this is what they go to, the word skill. And I've broken down this word skill on this channel before, and I've talked to you guys about different players that they love to promote their skills, their quote unquote footwork that these guys are doing today. And once again, what are we determining is skill? What determines skill? How do you measure the skills of a player? Because all I ever hear guys mention, and he didn't mention this comment, is skills. What are we talking about here? They talk about dribbling and shooting. They really want you to believe, once again, guys, don't be fooled, don't believe the hype. But they want you to believe that the guys back in the day could not shoot. Oh, my goodness gracious. And when they think about shooting, they're only thinking about three-point shooting. Once again, the three-point line did not come into play until 1980, guys. 1980 was the three-point line's inaugural season. So once again, if we think about the three-point line, it hasn't been around for the entire inception of the NBA, for the NBA's entirety. Hasn't been around for actually a large portion of the NBA's history. And when you think about it coming in the 80s, once again, it takes years and years for guys to develop this and bring this into their game. Right? Acclimated into their overall games. This is why guys back in the 80s and the 90s, they were more specialists that took three-pointers. It was rare for guys to take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 threes a game. No one did that stuff. Even the three-point shooters, the guys you would consider three-point shooters, they were only taking 3 or 4 threes a game, if that. If that. So once again, they try to make it seem like these guys couldn't shoot back in the day. But in fact, the reality of the matter is, the facts show that the guys back in the day were actually great shooters, and they were actually probably better shooters because once again, they played a more physical era, so you didn't have as much space to shoot the basketball. Guys were allowed to put their hands on you and do all these kinds of things. But we must also think about, once again, they didn't have years and years and years to work on a three-point shot, to develop a three-point shot, because that wasn't the way the NBA was. It wasn't in the game back in them days. Also, when you think about how many times they were shooting the three-point shot, if you're only shooting the 3, 4 times a game, then guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In order for you to shoot a good percentage, you have to make a more than you miss, right? You don't have as many chances to miss. So if you're shooting 4 three-pointers, right? Then you have to make 2 of those to shoot 50%. So you can only miss 2, right? Only miss 2. But if you miss 3, then all of a sudden what? You're not shooting that good. You're shooting, 30%, whatever the case may be. If you shoot 5 threes and you miss 3 of them and you're shooting 40%, then that's pretty damn good, right? But the more you shoot, the more you can miss. So if you shoot 10 threes in a game and you miss 5 or 6 of them, you're still shooting 40%, but you miss 6 of the shots. The guys in the back in the day in the 80s, they couldn't miss 6 threes. They couldn't take 6 threes. So they had to make more than they shot, and they didn't shoot a lot. So it gave them even less opportunities to miss. They had to make those shots. And once again, they like to talk about the big men. The big guys can shoot. Everyone can shoot now. Everyone can't shoot now. That's the problem. Everyone thinks they can shoot now, when in reality, they can't shoot. Don't talk to me about a guy shooting 35, 36, 37% from three-pointer in this era. That's garbage. Because once again, these guys are allowed to shoot all these wide open threes. No one can breathe on you. No one can touch you. None of this stuff. In this weak, soft era, I'm not impressed. And once again, these guys are chucking up 8, 9, 10 threes a game. But they'll talk about the shooting as a skill that the guys have today that they didn't have in the past. I want you guys to think about some of the three-point shooting contests that have been in NBA's history. Who's the guys who won 3 in a row? Three-point guys in a row. Larry Bird did that. Is he playing in this era? Larry Bird, pretty damn skilled, pretty damn good shooter, right? Played a long time ago. Craig Hodges, you guys know who Craig Hodges is? Won 3 three-pointers, a contest in a row, right after Larry Bird won 3 in a row. Craig Hodges, one of the great shooters in NBA's history, a knockdown shooter. But these guys couldn't shoot? What are we talking about here? Those guys could shoot. They were big men that could shoot. Bill Laimbeer, I told you guys many times, when Michael Jordan tied the record for three-point shots in the half during the 1992 NBA Finals, he tied that record with Bill Laimbeer. Bill Laimbeer, a 6'10" center, was shooting three-pointers in the 80s when the three-point line was literally just instituted. But he was knocking shots down. I've told you guys, I've talked to you guys about guys like Detlef Schrempf on this channel. 6'10", could shoot the three, was money from three-point range, could put it on the floor. 6'10", stretch the floor out. So you guys got Sam Perkins, another 6'10" guy who could stretch the floor, knock down threes. Guys could shoot threes. And once again, they weren't allowed to take 7, 8, 9, 10 threes. They had to knock the shots down in the amount that they were able to take. 3, 4, 5 threes a game, if that, man. Those guys could shoot, man. They had quote-unquote skills. When we think about some of the ball handling they talk about, right? We're talking about skills. We're talking about the ball handling ability of the guys today. Once again, guys, let's think about this and be very clear here. And let's be honest. The officiating back in the day, the 80s and 90s, let's focus on the 80s and 90s, Michael Jordan's era. The officiating was a lot tighter and more strict in those eras. So, in fact, wouldn't that show that the players back in them days had more skill because they were being held to a higher standard? So if the guys today are more skilled as they want you to believe, like Anthony Edwards would say, then shouldn't they be held to a higher standard? They should not be allowed to manipulate the basketball and do all these things the way that they're able to. They're allowed to do these things. The officiating has become more lax. So that actually takes away from their overall skills. Their ball handling ability is not that great. Think about it when you watch the video footage. What you'll see is guys not being called for carries, not being called for traveling violations. They're allowed to do these things repeatedly at a high level. This is a regular thing in the NBA. Guys traveling and carrying the ball all over the court. And I'm not trying to take away from these guys' errors or take away from their overall games. But when Anthony Edwards makes these comments and he brings up the word skill and you don't give any context behind that and you just throw it out there. And once again, you hear people talk about these guys' dribbling abilities and the shooting ability of these guys today and the guys back in the day couldn't do these things. It doesn't add up to the video footage. Because what you see in the video footage is these guys, once again, being able and being allowed to manipulate the rules. So, in fact, what Bob Cousy was doing in the 50s and the 60s was actually way more impressive because he was being held to the letter of the rule, the letter of the law. Your hand had to stay on top of the basketball, not on the side, not on the bottom. You couldn't do any of that stuff back in them days. And as far as the 80s and 90s is concerned, these guys will call for a lot more traveling violations, a lot more carrying and palming violations than these guys today would ever dare be called for. So I would actually, in fact, say the players back when Michael Jordan played had more skills because they were held to a high standard. So if you're held to a high standard, that must be because you're more skilled. They have to lessen the rules on these guys today because obviously they're not as skilled. That's how I see it. And that's how Anthony Edwards should see it, because those are the facts. Also, let's think about what he said here. He said Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill. So, once again, this is what they do. And Anthony Edwards, you sound stupid. Once again, you expose yourself. Michael Jordan's the only player that in his era that had skill. Now, let's just focus on the 90s. We won't talk about Magic Johnson or Larry Bird here. Let's just focus on the 90s players. Just, guys, be honest. Even if you don't believe Michael Jordan's greatest of all time or not, are we to believe and sit here with a straight face and believe Anthony Edwards when he says that Michael Jordan was the only player during his time that had skill? I want you guys to really think about that statement, how dumb he sounds as a guy who plays in the NBA. How stupid you sound, and how embarrassing this is for the NBA and the NBA's history, guys. This is embarrassing what these guys do to the NBA's history. It's embarrassing what they say because they expose themselves as not knowing the NBA's history, not knowing it, just not even caring to know it, to give it the proper respect. They don't know what to say. These guys are just talking nonsense, man. So, you're going to say that Hakeem Olajuwon had no skills. So, the person that people pay money to learn from, the Dream Shake, people have gone over the years since Hakeem Olajuwon's been retired. People have gone and sought out Hakeem Olajuwon to learn some of the footwork of Hakeem Olajuwon. LeBron James, in fact, has sought out Hakeem Olajuwon. Guys like Kobe Bryant in the past have sought out Hakeem Olajuwon and some advice and some tutelage from Hakeem Olajuwon. Many players have. Why is that? Because he's not skilled? Because he had no skills, didn't know what he was doing out there. People pay him money and pay for his instruction. Exposed, Anthony Edwards. You sound stupid, man. Stupid. Is anybody calling up Karl Anthony Towns and asking Karl Anthony Towns for some workout stuff, some tutelage to show him how to be a skilled player? No way, man. It's an absolute joke, man. An absolute joke. Who's going to Rudy Gobert? Is anyone going to Rudy Gobert to figure out how to be a great defensive player? It's a joke. Rudy Gobert, the greatest defensive player of this era. See how unskilled this era is? Rudy Gobert wouldn't even sniff a Defensive Player of the Year award in the 90s. He would not sniff it. So while I'm talking about that, once again, let's talk about the defensive skills of the guys of the 90s. So we just talked about the footwork of Hakeem Olajuwon that people, study. Let's think about some of the defensive abilities, the skills on the defensive end of some of the guys in the 90s. Are we to believe that the guys in the 90s had no skills on defense? There were no great defensive players in the 90s? These guys today, Anthony Edwards couldn't shine the shoes of Michael Jordan or a Scottie Pippen on the defensive end. Some of these great defensive players are Gary Payton. I mean, what are we talking about here, man? What are you talking about skills? You have some of the greatest and most skilled defensive players in the 90s that played in the 90s in the history of the game. Dennis Rodman wasn't a skilled defensive player. I mean, his mind games alone goes to his skills, his rebounding prowess. That's pretty damn skilled for Dennis Rodman. David Robinson wasn't a skilled defensive player. He wasn't an overall skilled player. One of the great two-way players in the history of the game, David Robinson. Once again, I mentioned Hakeem Olajuwon. John Stockton didn't have any skills. He was unskilled. The way that John Stockton was able to pass the basketball was unskilled. These guys had great skill on the defensive end. Skills on defense. Scottie Pippen, a skilled defensive player. Michael Jordan, Gary Payton, Patrick Ewing, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning. These are skilled defensive players. They had defensive skills. Skills. Joe Dumars. Come on, man. Way more skilled than anyone playing today and on the defensive end. Way more skilled. And they gave way more effort. And they were way more consistent. Back in them days. Back in that time. Anthony Edwards talking about Michael Jordan was the only one who had skill. I mean, you think about the overall play of a lot of those guys back in the day. The overall game of a Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley didn't have any skills. No skills. For a 6'4" rebounding champion, he had no skills, though. Charles Barkley. Running up and down the court. 6'5", 250 pounds. Finishing with the two-hand monster jam. Like, what are we talking about? No skills. Karl Malone didn't have skills? He had no skills. What are we saying here? These guys don't make any sense, man. Let's think about the ball handling ability of some of the guys back in the day. You're going to sit here and tell me that Tim Hardaway didn't have good ball handling ability in the 90s? With the UTEP two-step? Tim Hardaway with the crossover? I mean, what are we saying? He didn't have no skills? Tim Hardaway didn't have no skills dribbling the basketball. Isaiah Thomas couldn't dribble the basketball? These guys had no dribbling abilities. Michael Jordan couldn't dribble the ball. Mark Price had no ball handling ability. John Stockton couldn't dribble the basketball. Gary Payton, Mark Jackson. I mean, think about some of the handling ability of these guys, the passing ability. Rod Strickland couldn't dribble the basketball. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf couldn't shoot the ball at all. Reggie Miller had no skills. He couldn't shoot the ball, Reggie Miller. No skills from Reggie Miller. The guy who was constantly in motion, running people off screens all day long, never getting tired, knocking down shots from all over when it matters most. It's called Miller time. Reggie Miller, though, no skills for Reggie Miller. A lot of these guys I mentioned, they had no skills. Man, Kevin Johnson didn't have any skills. Anthony Edwards, once again, exposing himself. I'm so tired of these guys. I'm done with Anthony Edwards, man. Dude, just shut your mouth. You sound ridiculous. And then he goes on to say, so when they saw Kobe Bryant, they were like, oh my God. What are you talking about, man? No, they were not. They were not. Kobe Bryant didn't even start until like his third or fourth season in the league. What the hell are you talking about, Anthony Edwards? It was Michael Jordan who had them saying, oh my God, had them scratching their head and not believing what they saw. What they got with Kobe Bryant was someone who was attaining to be Michael Jordan and outdo Michael Jordan while being Michael Jordan. That's what we were like, oh my God, this guy's really trying to outdo Michael Jordan by doing Michael Jordan better than Michael Jordan. That's what was impressive about what Kobe Bryant was attempting to do. Literally attempting to beat Michael Jordan at being Michael Jordan. No one would have thought that was even fathomable or somebody would even think about trying that. Kobe Bryant did that, though. And he damn near almost did it. That's the grace and the work ethic of a Kobe Bryant, the effort he gave, chasing Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan's greatness. Now everybody has skill, he says. Who? What skill? I would love these guys to explain. They never can explain it. They never can. They just talk about skill. They just throw it out there. Everyone's more skilled now. No one plays defense now. So there's no defensive skills. So where are the skills? The passers. Are the guys better passers now, right now? The guys in the NBA are better passers than the guys in the 90s? Overall, no, they're not. There's no one even on the level of a Mark Jackson right now passing the basketball. Man, you kidding me? Come on, man. Stop the nonsense. Ain't no one dropping dimes like John Stockton or a Magic Johnson or a Larry Bird. The playmaking ability of Michael Jordan. Once again, the two-way play of the guys in the 90s. These guys were two-way players. Patrick Ewing, a two-way player. Hakeem Olajuwon, a two-way. Karl Malone, two-way. John Stockton's a two-way player, man. Dropping dimes and playing defense. My goodness, man. So tired of this stuff with these fools. These guys are more skilled. No one had skills back in the day. They were actually more coachable back in the day. That's a skill. No one talks about that, though. They were more coachable back in the 90s. They listened. So even the coaches seemed to have more intelligence, more skills. They ran half-court traps, full-court presses. These guys today, in this era, a lot of these guys, they wouldn't be able to bring the ball up against that kind of pressure in those eras with that physicality. Where's all your skills when you're allowed to get that physicality used against you? All of a sudden, your skills get neutralized. That's why we fall back on the fundamentals, guys. The fundamentals. Players today, they ain't got the fundamentals like that. They've slept on the fundamentals. They're slacking on the fundamentals. They trying to get through and get by on their overall athleticism. They ain't got the skills where they're traveling, carrying the ball all over the court. Flopping around because they can't play defense. Load managing because they ain't got the heart. They ain't got the grit. Coaches getting fired all over the place now. Guys getting traded. Guys requesting trades. Refusing to play here. Refusing to play there. Not coachable. Not playing with the love of the game. They don't respect the fans. They talk down the fans. Leadership is a skill, guys. Leadership is literally a skill that people go and learn to become greater leaders. We're the leaders in today's era. Ain't no leaders. A bunch of goofy kids out here like Anthony Edwards talking nonsense. Drinking the Kool-Aid, man. Thinking he's greater than he really is. Dude ain't done nothing on the basketball court worth a damn, but he gonna be talking about the guys back in the day had no skills. Dude ain't never made an all-defensive team in his career. Talking about these guys ain't had no skills. People were literally studying Michael Jordan. Dwayne Wade said he was studying Michael Jordan to learn how to play off ball to help LeBron James after the 2011 NBA Finals. Studying Michael Jordan. Freaking fool, man. You guys know the deal, man. This is why we must continue to set the record straight in these clowns, man. And stop the lies and narratives, man. These guys have been skilled all throughout the NBA's history. They've been skilled players. Yes, some more skilled than others. But once again, the one thing that can't be denied, as it pertains to the 80s and 90s, the era I grew up watching, these guys gave the effort way more consistently than the guys do today, which is why they didn't load manage. They didn't need an in-season tournament to give them more incentive. They didn't need money thrown at them to get them to show up to work. They had to show up to work to earn their pay and earn their roles and earn their spot and earn their respect from the fans. These guys ain't doing that today, man. The guys back in the day, they gave the effort, guys, more often than not. So once again, they earned the respect, and these guys had skills. They had the fundamentals, which is more important than a lot of these guys today. They don't care about the fundamentals. This is why the NBA All-Star game is a joke now. So Anthony Edwards wants you to believe the guys are more skilled now, but the NBA All-Star game is an absolute joke. An absolute joke. The game back in the day was more balanced because guys had more fundamental and more overall skills. The skills were there. The game was more balanced. The All-Star game was more beautiful to watch. It was more entertaining because these guys had skills. They had skills. There ain't no skill watching Karl-Anthony Towns run up and down the floor like a goofball and watch Damian Lillard shoot 60, 70 threes a game, or all these guys shoot 100 plus some threes a game in an All-Star game. That's not skills. It's not. Once again, all these guys are not shooters the way that they think they are. This is why the game is boring, the ratings are low, and Anthony Edwards, you expose yourself again. Please shut the hell up, man. These guys don't understand what they're talking about. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.